So we're having like real problems trying to get the live stream up and running. And through no small feat, I think we might have something happening here. Let's put this maybe up here. Something like that. How's that? That's too low.
I feel like where we had it was good.
Okay. Hi there, Alexa. Now I've got to bring everybody
Thank you
over.
for being patient with us.
Yeah, I've got to bring everybody over from the other stream. So I've got to find whatever the stream is called, and on YouTube, and then post it in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. It has been quite a challenge trying to get this up and running, and we're sending data to YouTube, but on the YouTube end, it's not encoding it right. So I just pulled out the mobile phone. I wanted to give you guys some of this information.
There's some familiar faces.
And this has been, I apologize for the delay, guys, and it drives me nuts when stuff goes wrong. But our stream quality goes from good to bad to okay, and it just keeps bouncing around on YouTube's end. So I think there might be something happening there. Welcome to Jillian Fernie from Burlington, Ontario.
That's close.
So let's get right into it because we don't have a lot of time. These guys have been waiting. So jump right into it, Kale, and I'll send everybody over from the other chat.
Yeah, so what we wanted to talk to you guys about today is a pretty common thing that we see among dog trainers or dog owners, and that is sort of teaching dogs to ignore you. There's a lot of people who get frustrated when they give their dogs a command, and where am I supposed to be looking here, by the way? Like there?
Yeah.
Okay. They give their dog a command and the dog doesn't listen, and the most common thing that we find people do is they just keep repeating the command over and over and over again, and we know through dog training that isn't always and teach your dog to be a better listener.
For sure.
Of course.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go get a battery probably.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Ken's phone just said that it was about to run out of battery, so if we suddenly disappear, I can hear Ken running to get the thing upstairs. Anyways, so we wanted just to talk to you a little bit about this. I see some comments coming in, which is great. So if you want to post some comments as to, and I actually have no idea what you guys heard. We talked for like the first 10, 15 minutes before we really realized that there was nothing going on. So I don't know if you guys could have heard that or whatnot, but we had asked if, you know, where you guys were from and what kind of dogs you had, and if you were having any issues with the dogs ignoring you. You know, so if there's things that you want to shoot out, I'm sort of trying to pay attention to the comments as I speak here, but I wanted to start talking specifically about puppies first. So I don't know. Oh, hi Alexa. I want a border collie. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of border collies, but I'm a big fan of other breeds as well. Border collies definitely hold a special spot in my heart for sure. But all breeds are great, and all breeds can ignore handlers. It's not a breed specific trait. It's a sort of a human specific trait. So if we talk about...
Hold on tight, guys. I'm going to try to plug the phone in and not flip the phone
That
over.
was relatively smooth.
Good, okay.
The only thing I don't love about this setup, sweetie, is that this is blocking the comment. So could we slide it a little bit to the right?
So I'm glad that you guys...
Go that way, yeah. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Why?
We'll just move it because it comes up here and then we can't see it.
Okay.
You should maybe do it a bit more than that. Oh, a little bit more.
Okay, that's it.
Yay!
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, I think we might be ready to start now.
Oh, jeez.
I know Kale was filling you guys in, but we wanted to talk about how important. Did you talk about any of that stuff at the top?
No.
Now this is a modified
Well, yes,
version
yes, I
of
did.
the train station, but you know what? We're not going to leave out the train whistle.
Oh boy.
Because we'll bring the train station on the road if we need to, and the train station will be mobile. So I thank you guys for joining us and holding with us as we try to get this whole song and dance up and running. But we know that having a dog who ignores you can be a really dangerous thing. And we wanted to talk to you about some of the things that you may have actually done to cause that situation. And I'm sure Kale probably mentioned that we do it inadvertently or accidentally, but your dog is a lot smarter than you think. And I think you guys are going to be surprised when we tell you some of the things and you recognize in yourself. You're like, geez, I have definitely done that before. And you recognize the reason why maybe your dog isn't listening to you like they once did.
Now I see a lot of
Melissa.
hi Melissa. I see a lot of familiar faces coming up and popping up to say hello, and there's actually a bunch of people that I've never seen online before, which is really cool. So for those of you high up from Australia, that's amazing. Hello.
Now, I really wish we had the like nice train station for these guys who have joined us all the way from Australia. We're just running on the phone today, and if you're just getting here, we've had some challenges getting things.
Usually
up and
we have
running.
like a much cooler setup going on, but we're doing it old school right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, for those of you who don't know us, my name's Kale and this is Ken, and we are part of McCann Professional Dog Trainers. It's a family dog training business that my family established 30
Almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, pushing 35 years now, a little bit more than that. And we specialize in family dog training. So just your everyday, teaching your dog to be a good family member, to listen well, to be respectful, and to behave themselves so that you can, enjoy them to the fullest. I also specialize in agility training as well. I travel all over the world to teach and train agility. And when Ken is not dog training, he is a professional firefighter. So we have quite the mix going on here.
A lot of activities.
Yeah.
So many activities.
Anyways, and we like doing these live streams just to give you guys a little bit of information about how to train dogs and how to hopefully find some more success with your four-legged little creature at home.
So I have to ask, I can see the chat up beside our screen now.
Oh.
I have to ask, Gillian Fernie, Kale, no jury would convict. I have to wonder what that comes from, because I was upstairs getting the... What did you guys discuss while I was away? Regardless, let's start at let's talk to people about what are some of the great ways you can get your puppy to listen to you the first time, every time, and like drill down to when you have that puppy, when you first bring that puppy home. What's a good way to make sure that you're not accidentally teaching your dog or your puppy not to listen to you?
Well, I think the first thing that's really important is that you need to be really aware of the words that you use with your dogs and when you use them, because I think the most common mistake that people make is they end up using commands such as like the puppy's name, for example, over and over and over again. They repeat it with the, without, the train station she's talking about.
Yeah.
It looks like you're on Team Ken. I don't know what we're
going
going
to
to do about this,
yeah,
Julian.
I like this.
Anyways, people who end up saying their dog's name or sit or come or whatever it might be without actually going through the steps of training the puppy how to do it. Because if you're repeating a command over and over and over again without expecting or helping your dog to respond to that particular command, it's essentially you're teaching them that it's okay to ignore you. So the repeating of the commands is definitely something that I think is the biggest mistake people make.
So when you have a brand new puppy, when we bring a brand new puppy home, we actually don't use their name.
No.
Unless we're training it. We'll use like pup, 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 or here, whatever the thing is, but we'll
like
never...
a filler command,
some sort of other thing. But we'll never use that puppy's name because we don't want to be, because it's a brand new thing for them. We don't want to be accidentally teaching them to not really pay attention to us when we say that word, which is their name.
And then when we do say it, we say it in a situation where we're setting the puppy up to be successful. So whether we have rewards on us or we're controlling the environment around us so that it's not that distracting, so that, when the puppy hears their name for the first, several hundred times probably, they're associating it with things that are positive, and also associating it with doing a specific behavior, like looking at us, for example, or moving towards us. But we set them up so that that happens and that they're not hearing their name and then doing something that we don't want them to do, such as ignoring us.
Yeah, for sure. And that sort of leads to, when you talk about being right with the puppy, using something like a house line. So we talk about this in a lot of our puppy videos, and oh my, Kale, do you have a drinking problem?
No, I just specifically brought this mug because there is bees all over it.
Yeah.
Because my puppy's name is Beeline. So I'm now obsessed with all things. See, Alexa sees it. Isn't it so cute?
So good question from Fear Fathom Gaming. We'll have to go back to that. I've lost my chat now. I don't know where it's gone. But I'll come back to it. Using your house line. So we talk about maybe getting a leash from the dollar store and cutting the loop off it, or using like, a piece of like shoelace, or we give all our Head Start puppy students, they get a piece of line that they can tie around their
like skinny light rope
that they can tie around their puppy's collar.
And the reason why we cut the handle off the leash, because people often like sort of give us a funny look when we say that, it's because when you put a line or a leash on your dog, and we're insinuating that you do this in the house, it often gets caught on things, and then that can deter people, although that is a big pain in the butt, and we can speak firsthand about that because all of our puppies have lines that get caught on things. When you take the handle off, they're less likely to get caught on things, and you should be watching the puppy anyway. So if I do see that the line's going to get a bit tangled, I'm right there to sort of dismantle it from whatever the issue is. But that is a really, really helpful thing. So if I do say the puppy's name and the puppy's too busy to respond, or they're still learning how to respond, then that line can prevent them from running into the other room or grabbing the socks out of the laundry hamper and running around the room, playing a catch me if you can game. So there's lots of ways that I can reinforce listening to my voice without lowering my status as a leader by turning too much into a litter mate.
Yeah, and it also, you can really avoid dangerous situations with your puppy if you have that house line. So, I imagine dropping, a sharp object in the kitchen, or maybe there's a pill, you've got a pill that's fallen off the counter. You can step on that line and make sure that puppy can't get that thing. It's not only just for, sort of a good training, or making you really seem like you're a leader who's in control of things. It's also a really important way to keep your puppy safe. So we really encourage you guys, especially those of you guys who have a puppy at home, to put a house line on that puppy for all of the reasons that we've mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and as I said before, when you're giving commands to your puppy for the first time, try to do it in a way that you're prepared to teach them what to do during that particular moment, or when they hear that particular command. Because sometimes what happens is we start using their name, or we start repeating things, and we're looking at the puppy and they're totally doing something different, or they're walking away, or they're scratching, or whatever, and then it's human instinct just to say the command again, or maybe get a bit louder with how we say it, thinking that will change things. But that's certainly not very good information for the dog. We want to try to be as clear and concise as possible. So just watch the repetitiveness of your words and helping them to be successful that way. That will really help cut down the possibility of them ignoring you.
Yeah, and because we have a bit of an abbreviated train station, because we've had some trouble getting things up and running, I want to move right into like adult dogs. And let us know in the chat, how many of you guys have like a dog that's older than 16 weeks or older than 20 weeks that you're working with now through some of your training. And this can apply from dogs that are like 16 weeks or 20 weeks all the way up to like 16 years old. A lot of the skills that we're about to talk about apply to all of those dogs. I'm just going to let those guys out.
Okay. Somebody had commented on the paintings behind. We sort of have, I guess you might be able to see things a bit better today. But I went to this really cool painting clinic where they teach you how to paint your dog. So I drew those. I only have 3 of the 7. I need to go to a lot more painting clinics to get the rest of them done, but they're pretty fun. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about adult dogs. Again, we've sort of touched base on some of the things, not repeating commands. We call them machine gun commands. So people say the command over and over and over again without getting a response. Asking the dog and giving them too many chances. So maybe they do understand the word, and you've gotten past the training point where they, you say sit, and they know what it means, but they're just too distracted to listen. That's another situation where it's important that you follow through, which is why having a leash on is very helpful. And it's not about, getting angry or upset. It's simply about being really calm and firm.
You're helping them be right.
Yeah.
You just want to show them whatever you said, you need to show them exactly how to do that.
Exactly. So I might, repeat the command a second time, but then pair that with something that helps the dog to actually follow through with the behavior that I've asked for. So I might, place them into position, or maneuver them with a leash, or I might use some food. I might do something that's going to help my dog to actually follow through. So the most we would ever repeat a command to our dogs is twice. once when we ask them to do it, and if they respond, then that's all we have to say it. Or we would say it a second time, and then we would follow through with something to help the dog actually respond to that particular behavior. And the reason why we repeat the command is because dogs learn within 1 second, and maybe we should touch base a little bit on timing, because that's sort of an important
I think
part
timing's
here.
really important.
Yeah, so if I said to Ken, like, sit, for example, and he was, I'm pretending he's a dog right now, by the way.
And I'm fitting him.
And he looks like a human. If I said to him, sit, and he didn't respond, and then like 5 seconds later, I showed him a piece of food, or I placed him into position, and he sat, he would actually not know that the word sit and me helping him into position had anything to do with one another, because dogs learn within 1 second, which is why it's a good idea to repeat the command. So I would say sit, I didn't get a response, sit, and then I might place him into position, or I might use a little cookie and help him into position. Yeah. So he's hearing the command, and then he's being shown what to do within 1 second of hearing the word, and that really speaks volumes to the dog. It makes sense to them, and then hopefully if you do that enough times, you say the word, and they go, oh, I know exactly what to do, and then they go right into the position you've asked them for.
And resisting the temptation to ask too many times, and this is something we talk about a lot with our students, and if you are one of our, My Dog Can or in-class students that are hearing me say this right now, and you're thinking, Jesus, is he talking about me? I would have already told you. But what we'll often see is somebody will say, sit, 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 and they won't give their dog an opportunity to respond, and they won't follow up. Yeah. They'll just start to load up that word, sit, because they know eventually, if they say sit enough times, the dog's eventually going to sit. But what you're essentially teaching your dog is that they're going to be asked 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 times before they need to sit, and then they're probably going to be rewarded either way. So
it doesn't really teach your dog to try harder to listen to you. Right. And then also, if you ask them to sit 300 times before they do it, why should they come on the first command, or why should they get off the counter on the first command? If they sort of think that they are always going to be able to get multiple chances to respond to something, sometimes they get a little bit slow with their response.
Sure.
Now, can you just go up? Fear Fathom Gaming asked a good question.
We apologize for how clunky this.
They're going really fast now.
Fear Fathom Gaming right here.
No, it was something about proofing. Go up there. Blah 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 blah. I can't see it now. Are you all the way at the bottom?
I don't think so.
Okay, go to the bottom.
Also, do you break them down daily?
Oh, there we go. When do you start proofing our pup-has commands down with no need to repeat except for come? That's pretty good so far. Mm-hmm. When do we start over with the commands but add conditioning circumstances? So you can definitely start proofing your dog on commands once you think that they understand the word. So we proof in a number of ways. We might proof by adding distance, or we might proof by adding distractions or changing the environment. Those are probably the 3 most common things.
But we'll only do one of those variations or distractions one at a time. We're not going to include too many different
you don't want to add all of those things at the same
exercises for your dog, because we really want them to be right, and we want to build on a foundation of success. So, figuring out what they can tolerate or what they're going to be successful through, and then going back and then trying that other distraction or that other distance that we really want to achieve.
Yeah, and if you do find that the dog is struggling with one of those things, then you need to learn how to tailor it so that you can make it easier, or cut the distance down, or change the distraction level, so that you can keep building. So you don't want to, if you're testing your dog, or you're in a proofing phase and your dog is continually making mistakes, that should sort of be an indication to you that you're making it too challenging. We don't want to have to put the dog in a situation where they are continually making mistakes. That's not a fun training session for you, and it's not very motivating for the dog as well. Dogs like to be right. They like to be reinforced, so it's important that we're setting our dogs up so that that happens, but then know that if there is a mistake made, it's not the end of the world. We're just going to help our dog through that in whatever manner is appropriate in that moment.
Yeah, and sort of see these things as training opportunities. Like when I go outside with one of our young dogs and we're going to work on maybe some attention on me, or walking, or working on a sit stay or something like that, I'm going to set myself up so that I'm ready to train. I'm going to have a leash or a long line on the dog, and we really love the idea of a long line for when we're working adult dogs. And we'll even pop a long line on our dogs if we see them start to slow down with some of these behaviors.
Yeah.
We'll pop a long line back on, and then we'll practice some of this stuff. But we've always got complete control, and we can always follow up, really let them know how to be right by using that long line. So I want you to think about, if you have a dog who doesn't have the snappiest sit, or if your dog doesn't like to stay or whatever, when you're working on this, make sure you set them up so that it can become a training exercise, so that they can't escape you and they can't, go running away into the bush, or, that you can follow up and you can help them to be right, because that's really what we're trying to achieve here. Also, sort of conversely, when we talk about your dog, maybe you've been working a few sits in a row, and all of a sudden they give you a beautiful, snappy sit, one that you've been hoping for since you began your training. Make sure you acknowledge that and make it a big deal. You're going to really get excited about you're going to jackboarding. You're going to mark that as a really great effort, and you're going to go in and you're going to give your dog maybe 2-3 treats in a row, really letting them know that
and be genuine with your praise.
Totally, yeah, and really let them know that that's what you've been really looking for, because you're going to be able to start to differentiate for your dog those ones that are pretty good and those ones that are spectacular, and you really see that extra effort from them.
Yeah. I think that you sort of touched base on this as well, but one thing that you should also know about dogs and the way that they learn is that once you train your dog to do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that that particular thing is going to stay snappy or great for the dog's entire life. Your goal is to train them, to do things as well as you can from the beginning, and then don't be surprised if things start to slide, especially if you're showing any inconsistency in your expectations or your follow through. There's sometimes where dogs will get a little bit sloppy or slow or rusty with their response, and you sort of said this before, but what's most important is when you start to recognize that you go and you do a bit of practice and some training, and as your dog starts to get older, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and reinforce some of the things that you used to reinforce a lot when they were puppies, because that keeps dogs really sharp. So we have lots of dogs between the two of us, and many of them, all of them are very well trained, and some of our younger dogs get a little bit more, formal training sessions than some of our older dogs, but it's not uncommon for, us to be out for a walk and then me to look at him and be like, oh my gosh, Funky is slow at responding today.
Right.
She's 11. Yep. And so, and it's because I'm not as strict with her as I was when she was a puppy. However, she's still not allowed to ignore me. So
for safety reasons.
Absolutely.
Among other things. When we have all the dogs running around with each other, they're having a blast, but they could put themselves in a dangerous position.
They need to come when they're called.
Yeah, for sure.
So I might just take her out separately, once or twice that week, and put the long line on, or bring out some extra treats. She loves to play tug, and just do, a few sessions, just a reminder. And then, before I know it, she's right back into the swing of things, listening the way that she always does. So, it's important to take notice of your dog's response. And the most important thing that you need to do as a dog owner and a dog trainer is to have high expectations.
Right.
If you do not have high expectations of your dog's ability to listen to you when you ask them to do something, you won't be successful. So you need to expect them to listen to you when you ask them to do something, and then make sure that you're paying off when they do.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing is to vary some of those rewards. We're gonna randomly reward our dog with whoever it is. So let's say Funky Monkey, and Funky's getting a little bit older. So we're gonna keep it fun for her. If one time we call her back to us, maybe we'll feed her with food. Maybe another time I'll run away with a tug toy, and I'll make it really interesting so that it doesn't become boring for our dog. And I want you to think about the same thing with your dog. What are their top 3 things that they love? And maybe they're all food, but maybe you've got a toy in there, or a retrieve toy, or something like that you can change up that reward. So they're always really excited. They respond to whatever your command is, and they don't really know what they're going to get out of it. So that you'll see them put in a little bit more effort to get to you, or to remain in that state, or to walk on a loose leash, or whatever that thing is. So keep it interesting for them as well. Now, I want to get into the chat here because I've seen some really great questions come through.
I just have a general comment to make as I'm seeing a bunch of the comments come through here, which we can definitely touch base on some of the specific ones.
Yeah.
I just had a total brain fart.
That's okay. I hope it doesn't smell. Okay, so
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay.
Many of you are sort of you have been indicating some of the frustrating things that your dogs do. They bark in certain circumstances, go under the fence, being stubborn, things like that. And what you also need to remember, this is especially important if you have a young dog that maybe hasn't yet developed really, really bad habits, thank you, is that you need to make sure that you're not putting your dog in a situation where it's really easy for them to ignore you. So if it's, going underneath the fence, or if it's barking at people as they walk by, the window on your street, or whatever it might be, so that you're not allowing your dog to rehearse things. Because remember, whether you're practicing things or repeating things that are right or wrong, your dog is always learning.
Yeah,
so,
this is a really important point, and I want you to keep this in mind with your dog, that your dog is taking in this information. Whether you're making good choices or you're not making good choices, your dog is learning. And this is so important for any dog owner to really understand.
You should never underestimate the intelligence of a dog. They're very, very smart.
You.
So what's important to me is that when I'm teaching something new, or I'm trying to fix something, or whatever it might be, I don't want to let them rehearse the behavior incorrectly or wrong over and over again. So if it's the fact that the dog's, getting under the fence or whatever it might be, think about how is that situation happening in the first place, and what can I do to prevent it from happening, so that I'm delivering the dog an easier way to get good information right from the beginning, rather than allowing the dog to be in a situation where they're going to make a poor mistake, and then now you're left having to deal with it, sometimes in a negative way, and we want to try to avoid that. So set your dog up for mistakes.
We talk
up for success, not for mistakes.
Success. Yeah. So we talk, in our classes, in our training, or in our online training, that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if you can interrupt these behaviors before they really become a problem, you're going to be much more likely to be successful. And your dog, it's going to make more sense to your dog. If they've been gratified by barking at the neighbor for 25 minutes while you've been upstairs in a room where you couldn't hear them, and you come out and tell them to be quiet, they've had 25 minutes to rehearse this bad behavior. So if you were out there and the moment they started barking, you did whatever you needed to do to redirect them and have them to be quiet, or give them a job, or whatever you do, it's less gratifying for them. So, it's more gratifying to be engaged with you. So really, again, when you encounter these little issues and problems and struggles you might have with your dog, try to figure out what's the root of this struggle. What's so gratifying? What does my dog enjoy so much about this thing? There's a couple questions I saw in the chat that I really liked. One from Don Wack says, how do you retain good behavior from a previous owner who let the pup do what they wanted for 7 months? She's super smart, but she likes to do what she wants. And
it can be difficult.
Yeah, so really, because
I've actually dealt with that exact behavior.
This is good. So let's talk about this just for a minute.
Yeah, so I rescued a Papillon when he was about 2 years old. So he had 2 years of rehearsing very, very bad behavior. He was actually biting people, biting his owner, and really acting inappropriately. And because he was making such poor choices, the owner was actually considering euthanizing him because he was quite nasty. So I took him and tried to do some behavioral training with him in hopes of turning things around, and obviously not having to do the choice of euthanasia. That's would be the worst possible case. But when I first got him, he basically thought that whenever he wanted something, he was supposed to growl and bite, in order to get what he wanted. And through a lot of good training and obedience training, and discipline and things like that, he started to learn with me that those types of behaviors just weren't going to get you what you wanted. And when he started to realize that he needed to be more respectful to me, his whole demeanor and his attitude and his listening skills turned right around. So even though he had some very, very annoying behaviors when I first got him, once I sort of established some good leadership and I started to give him some structure and some rules, and we started doing a lot of training together, and not just obedience training. We did all kinds of things together to build bond and relationship. He really turned around, and he actually lives with my best friend now, and with 2 little kids, and he is just a little bundle of joy. He's like almost 13 years old now, so this was a long time ago.
And he went from like the Green Mile, where his his
He was
family
on Ritalin and Prozac.
they thought they were going to
Awful.
have to euthanize him because of his behavioral
Yeah.
issues. He went to being a world team
Yeah, he
competitor.
went to
like
the Agility
competed
World
at-
Championships.
Yeah, like he was. It's quite an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
You may have heard Tic Tac in the background there. Is it so? Fear Fathom Gaming asks: is it okay to start over on commands? Let's say we don't get an immediate sit when we say the word. Can we use a new word with the intent not to repeat the new word? Can you use?
You can use a new word, but you also can retrain an old word as well. So if you find that the old word's not really working, you just need to remember that if you say sit and you're not getting an immediate response to that, then you need to repeat sit and then place your dog into position from there, or help them to move into that position so you don't have to say it a third or a fourth time. You certainly can retrain things completely and change the word altogether and sort of treat it like a brand new behavior. That is an option as well, but you don't have to do that. As long as you start to sort of change the expectation of the word, you can continue to use the same one. You just need to be prepared to be a little bit more diligent with your interaction with the dog when using that particular word.
I see Gillian Fernie asks: is 8 weeks too young to have those high expectations, or can you start, I guess, training really young?
Well, 8 weeks is really young. That's definitely when we would suggest that you start training. 9, 10 weeks. We usually take our puppies home or start to do some interactions with them 8 weeks. I'm in, the first several weeks that I get a puppy, it's going to be all about building relationship and teaching them how to do things. When we have an 8-week-old puppy, they don't really get a lot of opportunity to do things all on their own.
No.
They're under our strict supervision every single moment, and we're playing with them. We're starting to teach them how to follow food. We're teaching them what their name is. We already start working on sit and down and a whole bunch of things, but the whole time the phase is completely emphasized on teaching, not on testing. So we wouldn't call their name when they're across the kitchen and cross our fingers and hope that they come to us. We would be continually setting the puppy up to show them how to do it. And if we weren't there to completely supervise and to impact the dog, in every way, then we would have them in a safe away in their crate in a local area nearby us. And then, so they get lots of little training sessions all day long, and then lots of opportunity to nap, because let's face it, puppies love to nap.
Yeah, we have tons of puppy training videos on the channel.
Yeah, we do.
So if this is your first time here, make sure you check those out. We talk a lot about how to introduce some of these commands to your puppy, as well as what's the best way to introduce your puppy to your household. And I know that's a pretty popular video. I wanted to mention, we're talking about some of those adult dogs. Keep your expectations high. When those behaviors, whether it's a come command or a response name, when they start to fall off, make sure you train through it. There's no sense. I love the Stephen Wright joke. He says something to the effect of like, yesterday I walked my dog from New York City to Boston. I guess he's done. You can't think of it that way. It's like a dog walk. You're going to do it a little bit every day. And when you discover some of these challenges that your dog might be having, these are fun little ways to spend time with your dog. And you're going to have a dog who listens even better when you're doing fun things like this every, maybe once a week or maybe once a month. You're just doing some fun training with them. It's really engaging for them, and it's a great way to build a strong relationship that they'll want to work with you and that they'll want to listen to you.
Yeah, the more you train your dog, the better. And you need to remember that, training the dog to sit also helps train them to come. It also helps train them to focus on you. So all of the things that you train your dog to do teaches them about how to listen to you, and most importantly, how to like listening to you. So then that's one of the main reasons why we do a ton of trick training with puppies is tricks are cute and they're great to do.
Lots on the
but
channel.
I'm thinking bigger picture. I'm teaching the puppy how to problem solve. I'm teaching the puppy to like doing things for me, to please me. I'm teaching the puppy to learn how to use their body a little bit better, so that when I get to the point where I'm teaching them to walk on a leash and to come when they're called and to do things that are maybe a bit more formal and more useful than a trick, I have a dog that says, let's learn. I love this stuff. I love to do things for you. But it's sort of like the best type of brainwashing you can do, teaching the puppy that, doing things for you is just really, really the best thing, so that when, again, you go to train things that are a little bit more serious, if you will, the dog's totally game for it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Kale has to go and teach. Because we started the live stream a little bit late, we thought for sure we're going to have lots of time. But leave your comments in the, leave your questions in the comments below. I'll be available to check out the comments after we're done the stream, and I'll definitely be checking it over the next couple of days. Now, if you have something that you'd like us to talk about in these live streams, in the train station, live streams, make sure you let us know, because we're always coming up with ideas. We get lots of questions from you guys, our YouTube community, or some of our students, and we want to be able to answer your questions, but give you an opportunity to have this conversation, because this is all about the conversation between you and us, and we really want to be there to help you guys out. Now, I want to thank everybody who jumped on the stream. You came over from the preset stream, and you guys have asked tons of great questions. We're really excited that you were able to stick with us, and we hope you learned something. And until we see you next week, next Monday is our next video, but the next Thursday night at 7 p.m., we hope to have the train station back in order. But I want to thank you guys for watching. On that note, I'm Ken, and this is Kale. Happy training. Thanks for watching, guys.